So Valentine's Day is just around the corner and you're sick and tired of going out to restaurants and getting ripped off. Today, I'm gonna show you how to make a 3-course menu for that special someone, or for yourself. We're going to start with a beet and goat cheese salad, followed by a steak with potato gratin and brown butter hollandaise, finished with a delicious chocolate lava cake. I'm going to break it down into 2 separate days. So on the first day, you can do all the prep and heavy lifting, and on the day off, all you have to do is reheat a couple things, cook a couple quick things, and you'll be set. So if you want to impress that special someone, tag along and let's get cooking. We'll start this recipe with 3 large Yukon gold potatoes, which we are going to slice with either a mandolin, a food processor with a slicing attachment, or just a plain old knife. All I'm doing here is making sure the potatoes are small enough so I can slice them with my mandolin. And then I will be adjusting the thickness of the potatoes. If you are using a knife to slice your potatoes, all you want to make sure is that the thickness of every slice of potato is even. What I'm looking for here, in case you're using a mandolin, is a potato that's thin enough that you can basically see through it, like so. And once we've dialed in our mandolin to the desired thickness, it's time to get slicing. As we slice our potatoes, we'll be placing them in a medium bowl, which we'll use later to mix our potatoes with our seasoned cream. Once all of our potatoes have been sliced, it's time to make our cream mixture. In a small mixing bowl, we're going to pour a cup and a half of heavy whipping cream, to which we are going to add 5 grated garlic cloves. Once we've added all the grated garlic, we are going to add 4 tablespoons kosher salt, as well as a whole tablespoon of freshly ground black pepper. Then we are going to give it a little whisk until it is thoroughly combined. And now it's time to pour our cream mixture all over our potatoes. Next, we are going to toss all the potatoes in the cream and make sure every single slice of potato is fully covered with cream. Alternatively, we can make our cream mixture and pour it into the bowl before we start slicing our potatoes. And as we slice our potatoes, toss them into the cream mixture so they get fully covered. That's what I should have done. It's way easier. And now, it's time to start building our gratin. In a loaf pan, you are going to place some parchment paper. This will make it very easy to take out the gratin once it's fully cooled down and pressed. We are going to start layering the potatoes, one piece at a time, to make sure the surface is nice and even. And if there's any air gaps or little nooks and crannies, you can always take smaller pieces of potatoes and fill those gaps with. We're going to keep layering until we've used up all the potatoes. And now it's time to bake this puppy. We're going to cover it with aluminum foil to make sure that the potatoes cook in the liquid and don't brown. We're trying to avoid any browning during the cooking process, because after this has been cooked, we're going to press it down, slice it, and brown it in a hot pan. So you want to make sure that all the edges are very tight and sealed properly. And after that, we are going to bake this puppy in an oven set to 325 degrees for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. While our potatoes cook, it's time to take care of our veggies. In this case, we're going to make some broccoli. The only thing we want to do to this broccoli is slice it nice and thin. We will be roasting this broccoli in the same pan as we roast the steak, and it is going to be a very high heat, quick cooking. And since we won't be blanching the broccoli before we throw it in the pan, it is important to keep it nice and thin so it cooks all the way through before it burns. And that's it. The veggie portion of your main dish is all done. Keep this in the fridge overnight covered to prevent it from drying. And now, we'll start making the base for our brown butter hollandaise. All we're going to make today is the actual brown butter, and we'll finish the sauce tomorrow. So for this sauce, you want to take half a pound of butter and place it in a pot over medium-high heat. After a couple minutes, your butter will start to bubble and then it will get a foam on top. Once the foam starts getting a little bit of color and turning brown, you want to give that pot a little stir to make sure the butter is browning evenly and it's not burning. Once you can see the brown bits in the bottom like that, the brown butter is good to go. You'll want to transfer your butter to a heat-proof container, and you can either keep it in the fridge or at room temperature overnight. And now we can start taking care of our beets. In a medium pot, place 4 to 5 beets depending on how big of a salad you want to make. Cover them with water and turn the heat on to medium to high until it comes to a boil. These beets will take about 45 minutes to an hour to cook. In the meantime, we'll be making our vinaigrette for the beets. In a measuring cup, put 1 heaping teaspoon of grainy Dijon mustard, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, about 4 tablespoons or 60 milliliters of white wine vinegar, and start mixing with a hand blender. Once the base is mixed thoroughly, you want to slowly start drizzling in about 2/3 of a cup or 180 milliliters of canola or any other vegetable oil. You want to emulsify this oil into the vinaigrette as you make it, because that will yield a very creamy and smooth vinaigrette which will coat the beets very evenly and will almost make it seem like they're covered with butter. And once the vinaigrette is emulsified, give it a little taste and adjust the seasoning. If it needs a little bit more acidity, feel free to add a little bit more vinegar. If it needs more sweetness, add a little bit more maple syrup like I did here. And that's it. The vinaigrette for the beet salad is done. After about 45 minutes of boiling our beets, it's time to see if they're ready. The only way to check if beets are ready is to poke them with a knife. And if the knife slides in easily, that means we're done. Now we are going to take all of our beets out of the pot to start cooling them down. We'll want to cool our beets down enough so we can peel them without burning our hands, but not too much where they feel cold to the touch. More on this later. And while our beets cool down, we are going to take a shallot, cut it in half, peel it, and slice it as thin as we can. This shallot is going to marinate with our beets and vinaigrette overnight, and it's going to give our salad a little bit of a punch. And once our shallot is thinly sliced, we're going to place it in a medium mixing bowl. And now we can move back onto our beets. I personally like to peel my beets with a paper towel. The skin should come right off when you rub the beets with a paper towel. In my opinion, this is the easiest and the cleanest way to peel beets. And once our beet is fully peeled, we're going to set the peels aside. Take the top and the bottom of the beet and cut them into any desired shape. In this case, I want to cut the beets small enough so I can take them in one bite and I don't have to cut them while I eat my salad. But you can cut them in any shape or size you want. Next, we are going to place them in the mixing bowl with the shallots. And once all of our beets have been peeled and cut, we are going to season them generously with salt and black pepper. We are going to add about half of the vinaigrette we made to start. And don't worry if you have any leftover vinaigrette, it will be amazing with any other salad. We are going to toss our beets in that vinaigrette, and the reason why we want to make sure the beets are still warm is because as they marinate in that vinaigrette, they are going to absorb all those delicious flavors as they cool down. We also want to make sure all the shallots are evenly distributed and mixed between all of the beets. Now at this point, the salad is looking pretty good, but let's give it a little try and make sure we adjust the seasoning. In this case, I'm going to add a little bit more vinaigrette and a touch more salt. Once you're happy with how your beets taste, wrap them with saran wrap and make sure the saran wrap is as tight as it can be to prevent our beets from drying out in the fridge. And now, all there is to do is let them sit in the fridge overnight to let those beets absorb all the flavor from the vinaigrette and let the shallots mellow out a little bit. And that's it. Basically 90% of your beet salad for tomorrow is done. At this point, your potato gratin is probably done, if not very close to done. We are going to very carefully remove the aluminum foil from the top without burning our hands with all the steam that's going to come off those potatoes. And just like with the beets, the best way to know if this is cooked is to poke it with a paring knife. There should be no resistance when pushing through. Then you're going to take the same foil you used to cover your potatoes while cooking, and you're going to press it down onto the potatoes. Next, you're going to add some sort of weight on top. You can use a liter of cream, you can use a couple cans, whatever it is. You just want to apply as much pressure as possible. Then you're going to rest your potatoes at room temperature for about half an hour and then put them in the fridge overnight. And now, on to the last step of day 1. We are going to make the batter for a lava cake. In a small pot set over low heat, you are going to add 110 grams of butter. Then in a medium mixing bowl, you are going to add 60 grams of sugar along with 50 grams of all-purpose flour, to which you are going to add 3 whole eggs. Make sure the eggs are at room temperature, otherwise they will harden up the butter as soon as we pour it in. And once your butter has started to melt, you are going to add the chocolate and immediately turn the stove off. Then add a little pinch of salt to your dry mixture and give it a little whisk until it is homogeneous and there is no lumps in the mix. Then you are going to mix your butter and chocolate until it is very nice and smooth and there is 0 lumps in it. You are going to then pour the chocolate and butter mixture into the egg, flour, and sugar mixture. And again, you are going to give it a little whisk until it is thoroughly combined. You shouldn't see any streaks of egg or chocolate anywhere. Now, all there is to do is cover it with some saran wrap and make sure you press the plastic onto the batter to prevent the skin from forming. And that's it. Throw it in the fridge overnight and we'll deal with the rest tomorrow.
Alright, that's all the heavy lifting for today. Prep is done, everything's in the fridge. We'll see you guys tomorrow.